I'd like to call to order this Tuesday, April 4th, Town Council meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Ratcliffe and then the invocation by Councilman Brooks. Dawson, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
If you would like to join us, please bow your head at this time. Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed on our town and our citizens. We ask for your continued guidance as we work towards decisions for the future of our town. In your name, we pray. Amen.
I want to welcome everyone that's here and online. I appreciate you coming out. This is how we get stuff heard, and I appreciate you showing up. First thing, do we have any modifications? I don't think there are. So,
No.
All right. First thing we have on here would be presentations from the Fine Arts Center. Becky Latuka, we have. If you'd like to do yours, you've got 15 minutes, please. Thank you.
All right, so hello, good evening. Thank you all for having me here this evening. I really appreciate the opportunity to address you and to discuss an upcoming project that we have. So my name is Becky Latuka. I am the Executive Director for the Fine Arts Center for the New River Valley, located just a block over that way. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're celebrating 45 years this year, which we're very excited about. We were founded in 1978 by 3 arts educators who really saw a need to add arts to the school curriculum as well as arts to the community. During the first 45 years, you can see that I have some statistics up there. We have touched more than 900,000 lives. We've had more than 5,500 various classes and programs and things, so we've done a lot. Excuse me. The organization, however, had been, I don't want to call it dormant, but it had been somewhat quieter for a few years while there was not a paid director until they brought me on in October of 2021. Our mission, I jumped ahead of myself, I'm sorry. Our mission is believing that art is important to the life of a community. Our purpose is to foster an enjoyment, appreciation, and understanding of all forms of art, promote art education, and to encourage and support artists. We do this with a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We seek to be a place of belonging and to provide equitable opportunities and access to the fine arts for all people. We recently developed a new strategic plan, which is what I had started to launch into, that really identified 3 key factors, three priorities. And that is that we would like to promote and support artists and jobs in the arts in the New River Valley, excuse me, engage the community across the NRV, and to be a successful, responsible, and well-managed organization. One of the ways we would like to go about doing this really touches on all of those things, and that is to host an art installation called Together We Rise Pulaski. This is a community building project in which we invite community members, organizations, individuals, corporations to participate by loaning us a ladder. This particular project is the brainchild of Floyd County artist Charlie Brower. It's a project that he's done in countless other communities, and I will get to that, well, maybe not countless, but several other communities, and I will get to that in a minute. But the reason for the project is we bring everybody together by loaning a ladder. There's no obligation beyond that. For some people, those ladders might symbolize their hopes and dreams and aspirations. For others, it might simply be, I want to be part of this piece of art. So for whatever the reason, we welcome the ladders. When they're assembled together with strong cable ties, the collective efforts of the community become visible for all to see. And we are seeking to borrow hundreds of ladders, maybe even a couple hundred. And we would like to install this exhibition in Jackson Park right across the street for the entire month of May. On this next slide, I have some information from an art teacher who had been involved in a similar project. They have had slightly different names, but similar projects in multiple locations. And according to art teacher Amy Hall, Brower's ladder sculptures symbolize several things: the high-reaching hopes and dreams. In this case, it was of the Wilmington community and of the individuals within the community, the sharing of resources and the act of coming together to accomplish those dreams, the work that has been done to make dreams come true, and proof that amazing heights can be reached when individuals work together for a common goal. So as you can see on this slide, that these are piles of ladders. These are sculptures made of borrowed ladders. They are not necessarily in any specific order, but I will say that the one on the lower right as you're facing it, below Kingsport, that one was at the Taubman Museum of Art in Roanoke. So all of these communities have welcomed this project. That is the only one that I'm aware of that was actually an indoor, the one that was at the Taubman. But all of these communities have welcomed this project into their communities and had remarkable results. They were really positive about the way that it brought people together who maybe otherwise would not have been involved with each other or with an art project. So that was something that we were very excited about, or we are very excited that Mr. Brower has agreed to bring this project to Pulaski if we would like to have it here. There is a proposed timeline here. Pending final approval on our special use permit for the park, we will begin promoting the project tomorrow. And we will do that through a variety of ways. We'll use certainly digital media, social media, all of that, but we will also reach out to television, radio, print media, and do everything that we can to really get the word out there. Past iterations of this project have had tremendous media support, not only in advance of the project, but during the build itself. So I got stopped myself on the first line. But you can see that throughout the rest of the month, or toward the end of the month, we would begin accepting those loan ladders, and we'd be storing them at the Fine Arts Center. We have a couple of events coming up in which community members can come and either decorate a ladder, make a ladder, or somehow get involved with the ladder projects. The build itself will take place the first week in May 1st through 6th. And this is a project, I mentioned earlier that we'd like to bring this project to the community, and it touches on our priorities. Not only does it bring the community together in an art project, but it's also, it employs artists. So we would be paying artist Charlie Brower, who is a Floyd County artist, and we would also be pairing him up with a younger artist from Pulaski County, Barry Keller. He works in construction already, and he will be paired up with Charlie Brower to help build the structure. His building skills are what qualified him for it, but he also has a great interest in community art projects and public art, and he would like to learn from Mr. Brower, who is getting close to retiring. So he would like to work closely with Mr. Brower to kind of learn how to do this, how to go out into communities and engage the community and bring the art to the people instead of the people to the art. So the build would be May 1st through 6th, and during that time, there is a few-hour window of each day where we will be continuing to accept ladders, and that will be happening on site. We have a form that we fill out. Folks can drop off their ladder. They can stay and watch for a little while. Nobody is allowed to participate in the build except for the two artists, and they are both fully insured, which I do think has already been mentioned to all of you. And then we do expect there to be quite a media presence during the build as well, based on past experiences with this project. And then the sculpture would remain on display through June 1st. And then on June 2nd, these same two artists would come along, dismantle it in a day. All ladders will be removed from the park, brought back to the Fine Arts Center. And then the following week, everybody who has loaned a ladder can pick up their ladders. Anyone who doesn't want their ladder back, they don't have to take it. We will donate some to Habitat for Humanity and the Tool Lending Library. And so that's the timeline. It gives you a sense of what's going on. The next slide really just reiterates some of what I've already said. All ladders are accepted. It doesn't have to be a giant extension ladder. It could be the chair you use to step up on and change a light bulb. It is one thing that Mr. Brower saw as common to us all. We all use something to step up once in a while. And so coming together and sharing that tool to build this one structure is the point of it. So as you do lend a ladder, there is, paperwork involved. We will record it and tag it. We will make sure that all ladders get back to their original owners, and all ladder lenders will be listed on signage that will be posted in the park as well. And that's something that we have learned has been an important part of this project as well, because people feel a real connection to it. I actually had a personal involvement with the Roanoke project that Mr. Brower did, where I loaned a ladder on behalf of my father, who had actually recently passed away. And when I saw the list of names and I saw my dad's name on there, I get emotional even just trying to tell you about it. I can't really tell you how much it meant to me, but it was just so important that here my father was part of this community arts project in Roanoke that he may or may not have chosen to be part of on his own. So it meant something really special to me. And then we do have a handful of ways that the public can get involved. Obviously, loaning a ladder, that is number one. And we do ask not only for individuals, but if town departments want to loan a ladder, that would be wonderful. Any town employee, any nonprofit organization, any corporations that want to loan a ladder or ladders. And also if they want to get involved with us, helping us to pick up some of these ladders, because not everyone can deliver them, that would be wonderful. And we are also still seeking corporate sponsorship for the project. So that is the end of the slides that I have about the Together We Rise Pulaski project. I will say real quickly before I stop, we do have some other great events coming up. We are celebrating 45 years this year that we're very excited about. We've got all sorts of great classes. We've got some new exhibits opening. We have our anniversary gala at the end of the month, and I'd love to see all of you there. And we have all sorts of opportunities to get involved with us through volunteering and other methods. So I think that is all that I had on the ladder project, unless there are questions.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
As far as the Fine Arts Center, I actually went in there here a while back. I was very impressed with the Fine Arts Center.
Fantastic.
I don't know a lot about art, but it's really nice there. If you guys in there, you need to go in there. It's really nice. The project here, I don't know a lot about it, but I will purchase a ladder, a new ladder. Since it's going to Habitat, I will purchase a new ladder for that. And then you guys can, and I'll even support my local business. I'll go to 84 Lumber and buy that ladder and donate to you. On one thing, if you
Sure.
build that thing that high, I want to see Mike Williams go up there and ring a bell. The ladder's yours for free.
So I can make no promises about anyone climbing on it, except I promise to keep everybody off of it.
Well,
So
that was the next question I was going to ask you. So when you build this, and I'm sure it stays there, you said
for the month.
for a month. How do you keep people off of? Do you have like a fence around it? Is it?
Well, so not really a fence, a string. It doesn't take much to keep people off of it. You can see by those photos, it looks kind of precarious. It's not, but it sure looks it. So very few people in general would consider probably going over and climbing up on that. The artist, of course, has been asked these questions in the past, and what he told us in a meeting was that he has never had evidence of people climbing up on one of these projects, except once. And he did find a doggy-doo bag that was tied to a ladder up kind of high, so somebody must have done that unless they threw it. But to his knowledge, he hasn't known of anyone actually climbing up on it. Its proximity to the police station, I think, would also be a deterrent. And there is a liability policy covering it, but we really don't anticipate people climbing up on it.
Good deal.
We know it was a risk.
Where when do you need this ladder and where can I drop it off? Just bring it down here?
So we will have, we're hoping not to receive them until at least April 15th. We are having a two-part form printed. Again, we're kind of saying, go ahead and print it after what happens this evening. So we will have our forms within less than a week, and at that time, we can start receiving ladders. But we don't want to store them any longer than we need to, so we are trying to hold off until April 15th. Additionally, and we will make this very clear publicly, there will be public times to deliver once the build starts. So you can deliver in advance to the Art Center, or even the first day of the build, you can deliver, and we can receive your ladder there. And thank you very much, too.
Becky, do you mind if I add one little thing?
Certainly.
Okay. I'm Terry from the Fine Arts Center, working closely with Miss Becky here. Mr. Brower's design for Pulaski's Together We Rise is actually a house. And that was the first design he did in Winston-Salem in 2008. But this house will be able to be walked through, which I think will also help curb any, interest in, oh, can I get into the thing or get close to it. But what's so nice about his vision is that we'll be able to be a community who's built this together and could look up, see the big donator tags, the lender tags that have the names, Mike Reese and the Oscar and, whoever on the tag, and Shannon Collins and Blake, and see all these tags hanging from the house pieces. And I think being able to walk through it in the park, I think will be a great way for us to experience what he envisions, which is that together, putting our hopes, our dreams in these ladders, symbolizing them together, we are going to rise together. So I think that house feature,
Yeah.
which we just got a concept drawing last week from Charlie, but I think that'll be a big plus for our installation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and with the concept drawing, I do know that, of course, the final product will depend on how many ladders do we have. So there could be some changes to it. It could be a great big house. So
Do we go ahead and, if we'd like to do?
Well, I would just explain that the council doesn't typically get involved in the special event permits. But because this installation would be on our key feature in the downtown Jackson Park for over a month, both in the build time and then the actual display, I felt it was important that the council have the opportunity to both hear about it and ask any questions. The staff has reviewed the permit application. Concern was expressed about the stability of the piece, given particularly these high winds that we've had in the last couple of weekends. I'll let the fine arts people speak to that issue, but they have responded to those questions from our police department and others. And so it's really an opportunity for you all to both be aware of it, to actually approve it in this case because of the length of time. Normally our events at the park are a day or a couple of days at most. And while we do see that it has a lot of opportunity to focus people on that community aspect, we have some concerns about security. And I understand that, and maybe you explain that a little bit, that you do plan to have people there and observing and monitoring and making sure that people are not going past your string.
So we will be there quite regularly, and certainly during the build. We will not have, 24/7
Right.
monitoring of it, but we will absolutely monitor it daily, or, check on it, make sure nothing is amiss, I guess would be the best way to say that. I will say that, I commented, it looks precarious. These are rock-solid structures. It's a somewhat amazing process. So they start out with using zip ties. I mean, the whole build is made with 24-inch zip ties, but each ladder that's zip tied together, each piece that's added is checked for stability. And some of those photos that were on there, you can tell are during the build. I mean, some of the things that it looks like the artist is crawling on, it looks a little precarious. But he has no desire to be injured. So he really does make sure that he starts with a rock solid foundation, and then every single piece that's added everything is just like when you're loading a truck to move, you know, everything is shaken and jostled and moved and tweaked. And basically, they try to undo their work as they're going along, just to make sure that everything is tight and sound. And again, there have been no issues with any of these other communities in the past, and it has been in several places. So
You can always have, Ms. Bertram have the chief of police do a little extra patrolling our own bikes. Four-wheeler, that's what you got it for. I guess times, I know they do it anyway. I won't know until you get it built what you're looking for, but it'd be interesting to see it.
yeah. I'm very excited to see it. And I will point out too, something that I should have said right at the beginning. Naturally, this project does not take up the entire park. So the park is still there for the public to utilize, and hopefully a lot of people do come and enjoy this sculpture. And we do have some folks from throughout the NRV already offering to commit ladders and things. So we are bringing folks into town as well. The project is called Together We Rise Pulaski because it's located here, but it is, anyone that wants to loan a ladder, it is open to everyone. It's as fair and equitable as a project can be, so.
I personally was curious when Ms. Sternberger mentioned that this is going to be a walk-through house. How would you allow people to walk through it if in fact you're going to have it somehow cordoned off? Or would there be a time that you all would allow that to happen, or?
No, it would not be timed. So the preliminary drawings that I saw, that was one idea, and that was something that had been done. I thought it was up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, that he also had a structure that you could walk through. I know that he did another one that was a house that Terry had mentioned, but I believe it was the one in Allentown that people were able to walk through. My understanding in the past was that the way that the cordoning off went, it went on the inside as well. So basically, as
Oh,
you're walking
okay.
through,
All right,
you're
so
not,
that would be my only
Yeah.
concern, and I've just heard that that was
yeah,
a possible feature for it, that walking through it, I thought, okay, well, how are you going to keep people away from it if they're
right,
walking
right,
through?
right. And so even on the inside, that string would be there to, prevent you from just
Got it.
to climb up on the inside, to climb the walls, so to speak.
I wonder if, as both a promotional aspect and also as a security aspect, if we could set up maybe in some place on town hall, like a webcam. So if people from, who aren't in town, could watch it both being built, and also it could be like a viewing point, we could be, if it was lit, and then there was a camera on it and it was well
Right.
marked that it was, smile, you're on camera kind of thing, maybe in a slightly more, jovial way, but that might add to the, both the sort of the interest in the piece as well as the safety of it. If people know that they're, being observed, they tend to be a little bit more safe. So that's just a thought. I mean, just
Yeah, that's certainly something I would be happy to bring back to the committee for discussion. I don't know if it's something that we could implement, but
well, I mean, I don't think a like a webcam costs more than $100. So, and it just require. I mean, it may just require some communication with the town to just be, connected to an internet connection.
right.
And so you'd like, I mean, really just like a big, large scale baby monitor, really.
Sure.
But there was not a plan for this to be lit by the Fine
No.
Arts Center.
Okay.
That is correct.
So at night,
Well, you know what? The one I had for my kids was infrared, so it showed up at night too. So.
Any other questions?
You all set with me?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, do we need a motion for this, or can we do it by?
I think we just need to know that the council is approving or is supportive of whichever, kind of terminology you want to use, so that, because we, as a committee that normally reviews special use permits or special permits for this type of thing, are leaving the final decision to the council, again, because of the length of time that it's going to be on the property.
I have no issue with that. I think certainly need to monitor it, and it sounds like we're already working together, in oversight, with the project to make sure that I'm sure as it gets closer and we're on top of it, we're gonna have to make sure that the strings and the and everything is as appropriate as it can be for something of this nature.
Would you like me to do all in favor? Would that work?
I think it works.
Okay, so if you all agree, all in favor of having the Fine Arts Center install the project, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? So, looks like you'll be setting a small one up at my store, huh? All right. All right, now we'll move to discussion, changing the speed limit on Lee Highway Route 11 North. I've had multiple people ask about the speed limit going back to 45 after it passes the hospital. And I agree. And so I wanted this brought back up so that we could discuss it and decide whether we wanted to do it, or I know that we're 35 all over the town, but in certain situations, I think there should be more discussion. So if you all would like to
Mr.
have any
Chair, if I could
discussion.
I have a couple slides to kind of put this in perspective. This first slide is the plan that has been discussed with VDOT as far back as October, with a request that VDOT reduce the speed limit in the county prior to the intersection with Moorhead Lane to 45, which would then allow the appropriate distance going forward for the town to then introduce the 35-mile-per-hour speed limit on that side coming into town. I think part of the concern today is, and if you'd show the next slide, because VDOT has yet to make those changes, although they've indicated those will or should be available by early May, we have to start within the town with a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit coming into town in order to have the proper reduction and distance. You can't go from 55 to 20 miles less in one phase. And in fact, if you'll recall how you travel in and out of Dublin on Route 11, you're going toward Dublin at 55, you're then asked to reduce to 45, and then when you get into the Dublin town limits, you're actually at 35. Same thing is true as you travel outside of Dublin going toward Fairlawn. So our problem really today is that we don't have the proper signage by VDOT to allow for 35 to be throughout the town. And I know that some people have mentioned, well, if it's 45 coming in, why isn't it 45 going out? I would tell you, if the council intends to change the speed limit from the hospital to the town line, we would have to change it at least initially to 45, not the original 55, because of the need to have both space distance and a gradual either deceleration or acceleration of the speed limit. And so I just wanted to point that feature out as you have your discussion. We did contact VDOT shortly after the council made the decision back in the fall to ask for the sign corrections. The same thing was requested for Route 99. Although on Route 99, we have no signage once you reach the end of the speed limit going out that says anything other than what the speed limit was in the town. So it's currently 55 as you're traveling out. Coming in, we reduce it to 45 to then 35 in the same way that is done here. We are, kind of at the mercy of VDOT in terms of when they are able to make any changes at any time. In fact, I'll mention some of that a little bit later when I talk about the streetscape. But that is one of the confusing elements of it, that we have to be dictated by what the speed limit is in the county, coming into town and going out of the town into the county.
So just to make sure I'm on the same page with Mayor, and my thoughts, what we're talking about is where you currently have where the 35-mile-an-hour signs are here. On going out of the town, that location would be a 45 sign. So we're 35, townwide speed limit. But in this particular small stretch, we would go ahead and sign 45, and then it would hit 55 once it passed, out of the town, obviously signed with the county. And I understand we're 35 in town, so it would be a 10-mile, acceleration, and then a 10-mile to 55 once you hit the light. And then, as you said, you'd still need the deceleration. In the previous slide, it showed the deceleration happening before the light. And so you decelerate before you got to the light.
The request of VDOT in the county
Right.
is to,
So you decelerate before you got to the light, and then when you got to the same corner where you would go down to 35 as you started coming, before you got to the hospital at
Yes.
that point in time. And
so it
that,
would be 35 eventually with the original plan.
Right.
Because we have to adhere to the VDOT guidelines as it relates
Right.
to that distance thing.
but I think that would allow all of those things to happen, and we would just accelerate once we're leaving the business district and going into the open road. We'd accelerate to 45. It'd be 45 on both sides of the intersection, coming in and out of that, which is still a reduction from what it was before. And allow that, that open stretch in between the intersection and the turn coming past the hospital would accelerate to 45 at that point.
Roughly in the same location, across from the 45 to 35 that's on the incoming direction on Route 11.
For my one vote of that, I think that is appropriate.
So my only sort of counterpoint, and it's not necessarily, determinative, is that there are that section from the hospital down to Moorhead Lane, at least on what's essentially the southeast side. I mean, we own 18 acres over there that I think we would like to develop into, and other acreage over there we'd like to see turn into residential. And so the question is, do we want to have people accelerating already, or do we want to just have it be, because we're hoping that if people get accustomed to that speed, then it'll be easier if we're going to try to put in additional either residential or business development in that section. That's my only sort of thought. And the other thing is just, every time you make an exception, you just breed more exceptions, I mean, that's the other question, is that if it's 35 everywhere. But I also think that it's a downhill section. It's not the easiest thing to go. You're already sort of going quickly, and so I can appreciate that people find that frustrating. So it may just make sense just to not have there be a great disparity between, the people who are really trying to maintain the speed limit and the people who are kind of not paying as much attention.
I think it's as much of a safety risk sometimes having a speed too slow.
Agreed.
On a road, from that standpoint. And I don't think it's any more of an exception than we're 35 miles across town-wide, but we make exceptions for roads that we want to be less.
Yeah, exactly. True.
So it's no more of an exception than that. If there's a particular, small location that it's appropriate for it to be 10 higher, then I don't think that's more of an exception. And then as far as for the future concerns, that'd be a great problem to have, that there was so much introduced to a location that needed to be reduced. I think it could be easily done at that time.
There's also a church there, and there's never been a wreck there. So, I mean,
just like at the bike park, what would be the chance of a turn lane for either location?
We have looked at the right-of-way in that area. We think it would be close, but it might be possible. We haven't had a full year of use of the bike park at this point to see what kind of demand there would be. That area going out of town, after the 35, which is basically at the town limit sign that you see, or just beyond Dora Highway. But coming in, we have to do the same thing today that is up there by introducing 45 initially at the town boundaries coming in, and then with the appropriate distance, then going to 35. So we've really not adjusted any speed limit going out of town, but we have reduced the speed limit coming in so that by the time you get to the bike park, it is 35. And so what we're really trying to do is see if at that reduced speed, is there really the need for a turn lane or not? But we could certainly look at, whether or not we should put one in at that point. What I'm seeing there, some really good use, but not people that are having to hold traffic back, in order to make that turn at this point.
And the other thing on the stretch that we're talking about up here, on the right-hand side, I mean, there's some significant drop-offs that, regardless, may need to be addressed, regardless of what is done about the speed, because it's
I mean, on the shoulder?
on the shoulder, yeah.
Does that require a study or something, or do we need to engage a?
I think we have we have the study data.
Well,
Well, no, I meant more like a design, and I think you have to design that kind of stuff.
What,
Oh, for
drop
the-
off?
oh, you're
turn
talking
lane.
about the left turn lane?
Turn lane.
Absolutely.
No, I meant the drop off.
No, it can just be filled. It'll just be filled.
Okay.
It's just where it's 8 out.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you meant. Thank you. I thought you meant it just like dropped off.
How do you want to go about the speed?
Are there any objections to that change?
So can we change that then?
If the council wants to make that change, I would suggest you
Make a motion?
make a motion, because back when you originally changed it, it was a motion by the council. And what the staff would then do, if the motion passes, is we would advise VDOT that we no longer want them to reduce the speed limit in the county just prior to Moorhead, because we would be demonstrating that 45 was a reasonable drop as it is today coming into town, and we would put a similar sign going out of town at 45.
Now, so just make sure I understand that. So what you're saying would happen in that instance is it would be 55 all the way to the stoplight. And then we would notify 45 after the stoplight?
Not at
That's how it currently is.
where you see the 35 mile an hour speed limit sign going out of town now. We would, if I understand the motion that is being considered, we would place a 45 mile an hour speed limit sign, the proper distance after the 35 sign. It might be close to being across the road from the current 45 mile an hour sign that's on the incoming lane. So you'd only go 45.
I think the motion was to
So-
on that
right.
where it says 35 on the sort of east side of the road, that would change to 45
Yeah, the 35 sign at that location would be 45.
on Route 11 northbound.
And then,
And once it passes the light, it becomes 55.
right,
So they got a little extra time to ride.
Which light are we speaking of now?
The one at Moorhead.
It automatically, well,
Right,
it's
it'll
already
go back to 55 then.
within the
Yes.
county.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
45 will start right after the hospital, where it used to go to 55.
and then, so the question then, for the towns, so to understand are we asking for it to go, if you're going inbound?
I think we'd
In the
leave it
town.
inbound.
Inbound is already 40.
Leave it
Yeah.
inbound the way that it is, and so the only change we're making would be the 35 sign.
On Route 11
to-
northbound.
to
That
40.
other slide up again, because what was requested by VDOT, that we can certainly withdraw the request, was that we have the same 45 going out after the 35 to then get to the 55 once you were in the county. So you're just asking for another 45 mile an hour sign, but on,
Northbound Route 11 past the hospital.
Yep.
when we talk past the hospital, I may want to
The lo-
put a
the-
couple of poles up there and have you all make sure it is the right location, but we do have to meet the but the distance factor that VDOT requires for the placement from the 35 to a 45.
What I was referring to would be just past the turn.
Okay.
I don't know that, beyond that, I would have an argument for one side, any distance of it, but that would be a large distance still between there and the stoplight. And at that point in time, you wouldn't need VDOT to make those changes at all, correct? Okay.
We would have, well, for this road, and we're not talking about 99, I think, tonight. We can talk about that another time, but
Okay.
just for this one, we would withdraw the request for them to reduce the speed limit in the county in order to accommodate 35 throughout the town.
And there is already currently a sign posted for 35 at that location in the turn. Does that sound accurate?
I'm not visualizing the turn, but
The hill,
Yeah.
the hill.
Hill,
There might be, I'm not sure.
there are a couple of them throughout there. Not the but let us
So
take a look at
here's the motion.
Okay.
That we, Mr. Mayor, move that we that we amend the speed limit on Route 11 North, on the section that is between, the Lewis Gale Pulaski Hospital and Moorhead Lane, to 45 miles an hour, with the exact location to be determined by staff. Does that sound fair?
Second.
And then may I have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Aye.
Mr. Dawson?
Aye.
Mr. Ratliff?
Aye.
Mr. Quantz?
Aye.
Mr. Reese?
Aye.
All right. All right. With that, we will move on to the public comment period. I have 3 right now, and I ask that when I call your name, you'll come to the podium and say your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes each. So, first I have Gary Cox.
Thank you, Council. I'll call your attention, I was before you. Gary Cox, 131 8th Street Northwest, sorry. Call your attention, the last time I was here, we talked about Bob Bunce. And Bob Bunce, when he got something under his skin, he stuck with it. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. I have a neighbor who lives across the street from the rear of my house at 711 Randolph Avenue. And I'm going to say, do you recall hearing that from me the last time I was here?
I was
Okay,
not.
so I'm
I
getting-
was not.
That's fine. You don't have a vote in this anyway.
Yeah.
The trash customer.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's exactly right. It's still going on. She's had made another call, of course, to, I guess, the billing department, of which she was told again she needed to get a doctor's excuse to keep her from coming down 17 and a half feet vertical on 20 steps, concrete steps, dragging this 96 quart or 96 gallon trash can. At one time, the trash, and Mr. Ratliff pointed out last time, the trash was picked up in the alley. The alley is adequate for the truck to come and pick it up. Their neighbor right beside of it, it's 713, is an injured person, a war veteran, and he has his trash picked up in the back. This lady is not capable of doing this. What she's doing to get around it, and she brings it down every Monday night, she's coming 2/10 of a mile up the alley, down the hill on 8th Street, and then down Randolph to the front of her house. She comes in the afternoon before 6 o'clock, picks up the trash can and goes right back the way she had it and sets it at the back of her house. Now, I've challenged each one of you to go up that street and look at it, and look at all the houses along there. And I'm going to ask you to reconsider the request that I made, that this lady be allowed to have her trash picked up at the rear of her house. She's not deformed. She's not deformed. But she's going to get that way. If she comes down off those steps as a header, there's no telling what could happen to her. This is a health and safety issue, gentlemen, and it needs to be addressed. And I should think that we would address it with every member or every household on that street, because every one of them face it. Then I'm going to ask you on Sunday to drive down that street and just take a look at it and look at all the trash cans that are left on the road front, in front of their houses, because they don't carry them back up those hills. There's about 10 houses from 5th Street all the way up to 8th. So they don't have any on-street parking there at all. There's no sidewalk that they can use coming down from their house that they can roll these things. And it's just, it was a plan that was thought out, and maybe it's working well, and maybe it's economically feasible, but it's not proper for the people who live on the street.
Mr. Cox, I have to apologize to you because the next day I gave that address to our Public Works Department and was assured that they would handle that. And I also asked them to review the alley situation on Randolph, and it was my understanding that it had been taken care of. So,
It has not.
well, and I'm just saying,
Well,
I apologize for
I'm
that.
telling you, ma'am,
Yeah.
it has not.
Okay, well, I will talk to people first thing in the
And
morning.
as I said, there are a lot of other houses there, and you've got an ordinance, as I understand, has been put in place, that those cans have got to be coming off the roads.
That's correct.
And they're not doing it. And I don't know about any of the other homeowners in this area, or in Northwest, or whatever over the town. Those things are ugly.
Darlene,
I don't like it sitting in front of the streets, and if you ever want to sell a home,
Let me ask you a question. Actually, Ms. Berkman, that's just for, you said she had a doctor's, she has a doctor's.
No.
She does not have a doctor's.
she's a very frail, light woman, maybe 110 pounds. She has a son, maybe 13. He might be 100 pounds. And then there's a younger son who's probably 7, I would estimate. He might weigh 50 pounds.
I would like to just point out, just for your reference, that the ordinance doesn't require that the individual be disabled from work, doesn't require that they be, get veterans benefits for disability or anything, just that they're physically incapable. There's not as long as there's a doctor's note that says this individual cannot, place the trash can in a place where it can be picked up by the truck, that's sufficient for the purposes of the ordinance and GFLs. So that individual, despite the fact that she may not be, under our sort of colloquial definition disabled, may still qualify for it due to the.
And you need to change your wording downstairs when you're calling in. I
do
called
know-
in with a dead one.
I do know that, you're not going to, Councilor, it says, the company works very well with stuff like that once they're notified.
I'm
You
not
might be
saying the
right.
company does not work well.
Right, but what I'm saying
I'm
is,
saying this was poorly thought out. No one went out and looked at these routes.
I will
So we need to
agree
correct
with you. They rode every single route, every alley to determine where we needed to continue alley service and where people could reasonably bring it to the front. And my understanding.
Okay,
was
wait a
that-
minute. You said reasonable.
Well, can I finish what I
You
was saying?
certainly can. I just want to make sure that you said the right
Okay,
word.
well, and I understood that alley service was being done on Randolph. I have to admit, I did not go out and drive it, to be assured of that, but I had our streets maintenance person, as well as the GFL people, look at that situation, and my understanding, and I will double check it in the morning, is that alley service is available, and if they're going to the gentleman that you mentioned next door that is disabled, there's no reason why.
20
this
feet.
lady, yeah, could not be picked up, so.
Yep.
Again, my apologies that it hasn't happened. I certainly advised the staff that they were to handle it, and as I think I said that night, I thought we were doing alley service on Randolph, because that was one of a few streets that we really had some questions about.
You're doing alley service on the alley between 7th and 8th as well.
That's the only section?
they're not.
Well, and I've
but
seen.
they're not, I don't think, because I'll walk my dogs that way, and they have not worked that one, and they should.
What?
Between 7th and 8th.
Yeah, all the
between
way to Washington.
It
They
should,
Because you've got
because
houses that don't even have
yeah, you
a driveway or steps.
They did before, but then when they set them out, they set them in front of the houses and when they originally dropped them. And I don't know that people knew that they would be able to put them back there. Can we talk to GFL?
We actually sent letters to
to tell them if they were discontinued. But none of those got them saying that they were discontinued, and I don't think that Dave Clark's was another one. His is between 7th and 6th Street, and I don't think he got the letter. I don't know if they're picking up or not, but can we check with GFL just to see if they will run those, and if so, can we send letters to the people
Well,
saying,
they've
use
got
the,
a vehicle in the alley. They've got a vehicle in the alley. It's not gonna cost that much of time.
yeah, if it's going through there, they need to just pick it up.
I know my time is up, but I will say that I noticed that the town is a lot cleaner without people putting garbage bags, untied garbage bags on the side of the road. That's been a big help. But I still think that we've got a long way to go to get out, and someone from staff needs to go to these trouble spots and take a look at these hillsides and everything else. And that's not only northwest, that's all over this town. The whole town's built on a hill. Thank you.
Yes. But can we send a letter if, I mean, if they, if GFL will still do between the streets up on the alleys to the customers so that they know that they can put that trash can back on the alley because they haven't been.
Well, it was my understanding, because I saw the list of alleys, or streets that had alleys where people had service and where they had not, and we sent out letters. But, again, we'll take a look at it, and I will personally go out and look on Randolph.
really
although
think-
Randolph is now being challenged in two ways. We're getting ready to mill and pave Randolph, as well as replacing a water line between 10th and 15th Street. So there's a lot of activity going on Randolph. But I will personally go out there tomorrow and see what's going on.
Okay, because I think that what did the confusion was that they were dropped in front of the houses. And we were told originally where it's set is where it's to be picked up. But then it didn't go that route and people didn't understand. So if we can please figure that out. That's a good spot. That's a good spot. All right, next one I have is Nicholas Donaldson Sr.
I'm Victor Donaldson. I live at 1008 Oak Street in Pulaski. I'm sad that you guys punted on the speed limit thing, because if you bought that house that's just out from the hospital and they put a development in there, you're only going to have to change the speed limit again. And I would ask, would you ride your bike or let your kids ride your bike down Talladega Stretch? Because the speeding is ridiculous. It doesn't matter if it's from Moorhead to your business. It's 60 miles an hour, and I don't care what time it is. It can be at 6 in the morning. I drive a school bus. We used to be based at the school board office, and now we moved out to the high school. But the speed is ridiculous. I've spoken to Marion 4 times. I've talked to the captain once and the chief of police, and she said there's nowhere to sit. So are we changing the speed limit because we don't have the officers to police the speed limit? And it's not just Route 11. It's Memorial. It's Bob White. It's everywhere. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we had, 3 studies done, and I don't want to call anybody out. I'm a little nervous, but you said that you were going to slow them down. What's been slowed down? Nothing's been slowed down. They're faster than ever. You're in a school bus doing 35 and you're getting passed. Come on now, really? It's ridiculous. That's all I got to say. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick, I didn't recognize you. You've changed your hair.
Yeah, you like that?
I do.
I'm getting old.
I have Tim Bishkoff, but I think he,
Oh, I got one more thing. Lincoln Lights down going out. Remember we talked about it at the Randolph Park Halloween thing.
okay.
I jumped you, and you probably wouldn't have remembered. But if you're coming out of town and you're still doing 35
Yes.
or
Yeah.
45, those lights are
Yeah,
set for
they're set
55.
different. Yeah, they're not set.
They should either be ripped out or
Yeah.
switched. I mean,
I think I brought that up afterwards that they were off because of the speed limit change. Not the one coming in, but
We
going
don't
out.
have any control over that light.
Okay. The flashing lights, then we need to just take the flashing light that warns you that there's a red light coming
As you're
up.
going on Route 11 northbound towards the Moorhead Lane lights,
Who has control over that?
that's VDOT
Is it VDOT? Is
VDOT
that a
signal.
VDOT thing?
because it's outside of town limits.
No. That one?
Well, the flashing lights aren't, but the lights are. And since it's synced with the lights, it's,
Okay.
they're the ones who set the timer or whatnot on it.
Yes. Yeah, to warn you that it is changing. And as I said, I've got Tim Bischoff but I think that he left. So, with, no, no, just kidding. Hang on just a second. He's going to check and see if he's here. Okay. You've got 3 minutes.
You want another ladder, I reckon.
Terry Sternberg, 526 North Washington Avenue, Pulaski. I didn't expect to speak, but I just wanted to add a couple of things about the Together We Rise, that Becky did a great job, I think, presenting the case. But when you're concerned, and I know you're concerned rightfully about maybe vandalism or hijinks around the sculpture, but Mr. Brower has done 14 of these, I think we're number 15, in places like Allentown, downtown Atlanta, cities, East Chattanooga, pretty rundown part of Chattanooga. The pride that people feel being a part of this Together We Rise, rising up, aspiring, coming together, being seen, being noticed, being asked to lend a ladder if you live at Meadowview Apartments or something, produces such community pride that there's generally what happens is they treat the sculpture with respect and care, and it's a source of pride for the community. And so what we often think about being, you know, kind of a vulnerable spot perhaps for us to be putting something like this up is actually, when we engage the community, such a positive thing. And Charlie Brower, nobody can do it like he does. He would go door to door and just talk about borrowing ladders and lending ladders, the trust that goes into that, the community building, the conversation. I'm supercharged about doing this project. I can't thank you enough for saying yes to it. I know it looks big and weird and scary and all that, but I can assure you, all the hours I've spent looking at Charlie's videos and listening to him and watching him and talking with him, seeing the newspaper coverages and everything, it is so positive. You'll be so glad we did it. And this may be one of his last installations because of his age and health. So let's just really look forward to it. It's just a great opportunity. And the only other thing I guess I'd like to say is, can we indeed try to enforce this don't leave your cans out? In my little teeny part of 6th Street and between Washington and Madison, you know, garbage cans out with those bright green lids. It's just, oh, and the only other thing I guess I'd like to say is I have neighbors who, like me, live alone. I had one bag of trash in my 95-gallon can. Now, I don't mind paying the $20 a month. I can use my garbage can. But I have a neighbor who never generates but one bag of trash. And it got picked up by PSA, no problem. He does not need a 95-gallon trash can. And now he's paying, he had a low volume bill before, now he's paying the full price. So I wouldn't mind if y'all would consider maybe trying to figure out how to work with low volume customers in the community, because his budget's impacted by this quite a bit. So how can we modulate the service for really low, you know, single individuals who don't need a big can? So thank you.
Thank you. I only let you because you had the same color shirt underneath. I see the blue, the same color. All right, with that, we'll move to the consent agenda. If you look at your minutes from March 21st, 23, and then someone make a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve March 21st, 2023 minutes.
Second.
And may I have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Dawson?
Aye.
Mr. Ratliff?
Aye.
Mr. Klontz?
Aye.
Mr. Reese?
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll move to council comments. Mr. Clark, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the Pulaski Fire Department. They let me come out to the fire training last week, 3 days. They did wall breaching, oxygen control. They actually scaled the walls in there and did a search and rescue type of training. It was pretty awesome what those men and women do. So they even let me participate in knocking the walls down. So, and I got a little cherry here. So it was fun. I had a good time. Now with the ladder project, did she say, I missed it, if somebody brings in a ladder, can they decorate it themselves? Okay. Well. I'm gonna do like a racing stripe on mine. So. And a number. Yeah. That's all I got.
I'll go back and say, like, I'll buy the ladder. I would like to see if the staff would decorate. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Just put it down in the hallway and hang their name on it. Hang a picture, and then we can get it to you. I'll purchase. I'll go out. When did she have to have that? Just go back real quick. Sometime later. Okay.
Hey, maybe we can get a ladder.
Okay.
Maybe we can get a ladder, Shannon, at the shop and get everybody to sign it or
They're
something.
going to do a small installation at my
Okay.
store to get people's attention to it.
Oh, well,
So they were wanting somewhere to do it, and they said that would be somewhere that people would see it. And I said, of course, let's do it. I should have probably waited till we approved it, but I said yes. But I was thinking that you would probably approve it. Mr. Dawson, do you have anything?
Well, I've got a ladder at the house that's got so much duct tape on it holding it together. I'm pretty sure that's the only thing it would be good for is that installation anyway. So that one, y'all can have that one and keep it. I just had three things, just I guess with impending things. One with the park and that conversation, the Christmas lights on the trees in the park. Honestly, I can't remember if we completely took those down the previous year or they just stayed up all year. I was thinking that they did,
Never seen them come.
which, you know, I guess as long as that doesn't cause damage to something to where there's an unnecessary expense of having to replace lights. But I did notice that there are some of them that have fallen in all the wind down to the point that they're, you know, if someone was just walking through the park, they're going to hit the lights. And so that's probably with park activity, something that we at least need to work on that part of it. The train station, I was thinking about the marketplace pending, you know, being worked on. I didn't see in the information that we got sent that they were planning on holding that at the train station. I guess I assumed that they were still going to do it at the previous.
And it is on a Tuesday, which is the day that
Okay.
it was held previously.
So there are some repairs that need to be done to the outside of the train station where some damage has been done to downspouts. I mean, there's, I'd say almost half of them are damaged pretty.
There's some
And I don't know, I imagine it probably costs way more than anybody would want it to, but, you know, that, I think it's probably gonna be a have to fix. I don't know how long it would take to fix. I was just thinking about that the marketplace season was coming. And then we were talking about Main Street and different thoughts towards Main Street. I was noticing, I happened to go through Whitfield's Main Street when the sun was still, or not, I can't remember if it was already down or hadn't came up yet, but it was one of those two. and they have a lot of lighting, so they must have a lot of additional electrical just for lighting that is on the sidewalk side, basically lighting up the fronts of buildings. I also have there's almost every business down Whitfield Main Street is lit pretty well on the interior of their business to where from the outside you can see the lights beaming out from the inside. But they have outside lighting the fronts of not every building but a lot of them, and you can see that it's, you know, it's wired in, you know, intentionally somehow. And so I thought, you know, just in the, definitely we want to make sure that before we put down, you know, some new sidewalks, that we have ourselves opened up for everything that we may want to be able to do.
They have streetlights as well,
Yeah.
Yes.
in addition to
Yeah.
standard streetlights.
Mhm.
And I think they spend a
These
lot
are
of
just
money
like
on that
facade
too.
lights like people would put on their home, you know, just shining on the fronts of the buildings.
Yeah, footlights. Footlights sound right. Yeah.
But other than that, I think that's all I got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do. That's right.
like
They
this.
do. Yeah.
I like those.
But you know, with enough wiring, you know, there is, you know, just preparing for possibilities, I guess.
Mr. Ratcliffe?
But it's me. And Just a few questions. I want to pick up on my good friend here, Mr. Nick Donaldson, who's known him for years. Change looks, and I agree with what you said. It doesn't matter if it's 45, they're running 50 and 60. And I go to church at New Hope, right here where we're talking about changing the speed limit. And any one time, they 60, 70 cars come off that hill, and it is a very dangerous crossover. And I asked about a couple years ago, maybe to look at a pull-off lane, because what is happening, if they're coming down there at 45 mile an hour, they're running 55, you're exactly right, and these people are giving signals to go in there, there's really nowhere for them to go. So at one time I asked for Mr. Pettigo to take a look at maybe a pull-off lane there for the church, or even a signage that's lit up that says very congested area in there. I don't know, because after church what happens, they come out and they hit that little crossover, and as they're coming around through at 45, 50, 60 mile an hour, it's kind of a blind curve right there. When you hit the pullover, coming into town, it's an elbow there. If you're not very careful and you pull out, somebody's coming through there at 55, 60 mile, they got you. Even though the speed limit said, 30 years I was deputy sheriff, nobody runs 35 mile an hour. They run 50, 60. So brings the next question. Maybe it's time for the chief to fire those new radar units up, and ain't no better way to slow somebody down than a $400 fine. I'll guarantee you. It'll get your attention. So, tell her to get busy. Let's go. Get it done.
Many people have commented that the only reason we reduced the speed limit was to raise revenue.
Correct.
Tickets, and that has been absolutely wrong. We have spent an awful lot of time giving warnings, trying to encourage people, to slow down. I checked with the police department just yesterday, and in that particular section, I think they told me they had written 9 tickets in the last month. But that's still not slowing down some people until they actually get a ticket, and I understand that. Just like we've tried to put cars out to help people have a sense of putting on the brake when you see a police car, because we all do it.
You got you.
Whether we're doing something wrong or not, it's just human nature. So we really are trying to slow people down, but I also have the same experience of people flying by all the time, and some of them.
But, here's the key, and even I run radar. If speed limit's 35, there's nobody going to give you a ticket for running 40. There's a buffer anywhere. Even the state police will give you that much, and not much over, but you have to really be busting up through there to get a ticket. Now, like on Pepsi Ferry Road, where it's 25, I know for a fact I've come out of there and they've come by miles 45, 50 mile an hour when I've went out to work, and I've stopped and not necessarily wrote a ticket. Told you. Next time I am going to give you that. And that's the best way to do is get in somebody's pocket. I don't care what you say. And I'm sorry to have to be like that, but that's just the way it's got to be. He is correct. But let's move on with that. To the latter thing, very nice things coming to town, and we love stuff like I love stuff. I'm an old Harley rider. I'm just rough around the edges, but until I went into the Fine Arts Center, I really enjoyed that. And I've now since went to the Play in Wiffle where they do the dinner and stuff. So anyway, all right, my wife, she's getting soft. But anyway, people, if you haven't been in there, you need to go visit it. Our love sign at Miss Bertram expedited. We get a lot of good comments on it. It has stayed good. Haven't seen anybody trying to. So, hopefully that'll work. And I really hope it does. I think it will. With growing pains comes everything, correct? I want to say one more thing, and I'll leave it on. Miss Bertram has moved the town forward, and I know she gets a lot of bad raps. It's not Miss Bertram. You're looking at 6 people that does it, right? But it's a lot of studies that go into this stuff. We just don't make decisions overnight. Just like our water lines, Main Street, a lot of people said, that went on for 3 years. 3 years. We had studies, we had meetings, we had whatever. I mean, we was here after hours. We had nobody here. Nobody. Until we started doing it. Same thing, Gary B. up Randolph Park. We go to putting that water line in. So all we've heard, you ain't got no water pressure. As soon as we start, mark it down. Complaints will come. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing it? I guarantee it, mark it down. It never fails. It's growing pains. We'll live through it. But for Miss Bertram, she's done a wonderful job. She goes with our direction. She's here every day, and I want to thank you for what you've done. And you just keep going forward. Thanks so much. That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Klontz,
Nothing this evening.
Mr. Reese.
Just a couple of things. One, I just said this at the last meeting, but I had a citizen have some concerns about some things about the police department, and I gave a call to our chief, Jill Neese, who could not have been more understanding, and also had somebody reach out to the citizen, and there was some nice action, proactive action taken by the police department, and specifically Sonia Ramsey, who's our new community relations person, who's done a really wonderful job, I think, of just reaching out to the community and doing some real proactive, like nuts and bolts stuff that, just frees up police officers to do things that they should be doing and not things they shouldn't be doing. And so, and I think it's been great. And I know that the person who had the concerns was very appreciative that somebody was listening. The other thing I had is we talked a while back about putting cameras up at the train station. I was thinking, because I talked about cameras for that, did that ever, I know, electronics were, for a period of time, were very hard, and there was a lot of costs involved in one of the estimates at least. I don't know what happened to that, but I was just wondering if there was any movement on that, because I do think, again, that it helps if people think that there's maybe somebody watching them.
Well, I hate to say for sure, because I've had a situation at the last meeting where I said something because I thought I understood, and found out later that I was wrong. But my understanding is we did put them.
Okay. Well, maybe I just didn't see them then.
I will.
And maybe we need to put up some signs that say there are, video surveillance, because that we don't have. So.
We definitely approved the funds.
Okay.
There was a long delay time. I think everybody is waiting on something.
Sure.
In today's world. But my understanding was that they were installed, but I will double check that, and not give you an absolute until I have checked.
I appreciate that. And maybe I'm the different one. I feel like people are going super slow when I drive behind them. So maybe that's just me. Maybe I drive too fast, but I feel like I get stuck behind people who are doing like 34 miles an hour, and I think you could go a little faster. So that's just my own personal experience. And that's it. Thanks.
I was going to ask about the water line on Randolph, because I knew that I had noticed that they were, so we'll cut up before we pave, correct?
That's correct. We
Just don't want to pave it and then,
Well, we spent weeks agonizing on what to do.
Yeah.
Because that particular section has had 8 breaks in the last 2 years. So it definitely needs to be redone. We've looked for ways where we could possibly delay the paving in that area in order to accommodate it within that particular contract, which is a separate contract from our normal VDOT money, but it has to be completed and all bills paid by the end of June. So what we're doing now is trying to minimize any additional paving that has to happen there if we're not finished by the end of June. And the contractor, Norwood, which is doing the milling and paving, is starting at the bottom end, and we're hoping that, again, time works out, but we have to make sure that that money is spent by June the 30th, and it was to take the paving all the way to the county town line. So at some point, it will need to be paved, and the question is, will we have done enough that we can afford to come back later and do just a small strip? In the way they're doing it, it's a little bit different. They're going to go ahead and put the lines that go across to the properties in first, so we wouldn't have to tear that up. But a lot's going on Randolph, and I think I even saw where somebody was commenting that the bus drivers didn't get notice, and I apologize for that. We certainly have.
I asked about that today, because somebody was complaining on the talk of the town that the bus drivers didn't drop the kids off, and I drove that bus on 53 on Randolph today, and it was nice.
Yeah.
I mean, they're busy working, but it
Sure.
wasn't an inconvenience.
Well, we can't communicate enough, that's for sure. But we'll try to do better, on that in the future. But clearly, in that case, there's a lot of work being done. It will inconvenience people, but In the long run, I think everybody will be much pleased with the improvements.
All right. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Bertram.
All right, well, I have several things that I want to mention tonight, and I'm actually glad that Mr. Palmore is here tonight. He did make some comments at the last meeting, and the only thing I can say is that I said what I believed or understood at the time. So I didn't try to make up something. I'm as easy to forget or make mistakes as anyone else, but his comments really bothered me. So I went back and listened to the tape of the council meeting and talked to staff and pulled contracts and everything else to try to figure out where the missing pieces and parts were. And I think what has caused it more than anything is the contractor's commitment to us, which was a verbal one, that he would do the project as quickly as possible because he understood that it was putting a hardship on those businesses that were in that block. And he felt confident he could get it done by the 1st of April, and that didn't happen. I would also tell you that Ms. Palmore is correct. The contract itself does call for 150 days for substantial completion and 180 for final completion. But I would also tell you that we did a change order to that contract in order to allow us to put in additional meters and in some cases vaults in order to upgrade the service to many of these buildings where the owners obviously feel like there's going to be some very positive progress on that street in the near future. And so they have asked for additional meters for upper floor apartments or other kinds of activities. Unfortunately, those vaults, like a lot of things, are not just laying on a shelf. And we're waiting for that, although this evening coming back to work, I noticed that there was some trucks moving on the Washington Avenue side of the street, so it looks like perhaps they have gotten some of those materials in. But we want that done just as quickly as possible, and we actually asked all of the owners, we sent them a letter telling them that they had to let us know by early January if they wanted additional meters, because we didn't want to do the project, pave the street, and then turn around and dig it up because of the need for additional meters. And that's one of the reasons why we extended the lines to the property line so that we could have sprinkler systems. So I apologize for my mistakes. I take what I say seriously, and I wanted to make sure that if I was inaccurate, I corrected the information. But I honestly, in my heart of hearts, believe that that particular block is going to make a big comeback as soon as it reopens. I was pleased to hear that a new business is going into the former Max on Main, which again, I think is a demonstration that people believe in what we're doing there and that it's ripe for development. We have 5 buildings that are under renovation right now, or rehabilitation, where the plan is for retail and upper floor apartments. So nobody's happy. When we first started this project, as I said, the contractor wanted to expedite it. We offered, and I think I've said this previously, we offered to let them work up to 7 days a week if they wanted to. That was not a requirement of them. And again, we were trying to expedite the project as quickly as we could. But the contractor has been waiting for the last week or so for those vaults, and it appears that maybe some of that is in, and we will soon see some real progress. There also has been some concern about, well, when is everything else going to happen? And I don't know if the council recalls, but I did give you all a handout that was presented back, I think, in early December, which was a schedule for the streetscape design and eventual paving of that street. The streetscape work the replacement of curb, gutter, and sidewalk, is a project that is being funded by the Virginia Department of Transportation. We actually received 2 grants, one for Main Street North and one for Main Street South. The engineer was put under contract back in February of last year. The design was completed last August, but we're still dealing with VDOT in terms of their review. We're supposedly at 90%, but because there are federal dollars involved, we have to have both a state review and a federal review. But you will see in that timeline that we do intend to open up West Main as soon as it is complete, the water main is complete. And then as soon as we have the go-ahead, we will start the construction of the streetscape first on one side of the street, and then when that's complete, the other side, and not pave the street until that work is done. So it is going to be another stretch of time, and based upon contracts and how much money we have available, but all of these things are necessary and will be done to make sure that we have kept our commitment to the council and to the community, that these activities are done and that they're done with as little financial commitment as possible from the town. So we're constantly looking for financial resources to help. And that brings me to point out that several weeks ago, I've mentioned that, in fact, you all adopted a resolution in support of an application that we were going to send to the House Appropriations Committee to have several water lines replaced. And at that time, we had 3 that we had nominated. I'm pleased to report that that application has gone forward as a county application, which will provide funding, if approved, for 1 water main replacement in Dublin and 2 in the town of Pulaski. We were one of 15 applications that Congressman Griffith forwarded, and that's the maximum number that I guess each congressman was allowed to submit. So we are very hopeful. Unfortunately, in cutting one of those, the 5th Street one was removed. It's a shorter stretch than the other 2, but we will be getting, at least in the combination county application, the lion's share of the money. And I do want to publicly express my appreciation to Jonathan Sweet, who worked with the congressman's office to put this combination application together so that we were not competing as 2 towns within the county. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. Before the latter event, I want to remind people that this coming Saturday, April the 8th, is the Easter egg event. And we have had, I don't know how many thousands of eggs filled with candy. Our seniors over at the Senior Center have been tireless in doing that, and there probably are never enough of them, but we certainly are prepared to see what will happen on Saturday. There has been some question, because of the length of time, again, that is taken for us to actually establish the new set of pickleball courts that are going to be going on 6th Street to replace the aging and in disrepair tennis courts. And we've been told that, again, based upon timing and other contracts that are already out there, that will be complete no later than the 1st of July. And at that same time, that contractor will also do the striping on our new basketball courts that are located on 1st Street. And then I just want to remind people that tomorrow is the groundbreaking for the brand new Food City store in our town. And we have been told it will be even larger and nicer than the one in Fairlawn. And that seems to be the premier one at this point in time in that sector. So please come, enjoy that opportunity. Mr. Clark got it ready for us by helping with the demolition so that the construction could start. We appreciate your help. And that was a very unique opportunity for our firefighters to have the opportunity to really get into a building like that and do some demolition. A lot going on in the community. A lot of things that I wish I could wave a magic wand and make go faster, but we're making progress, and I think we just have to keep moving forward.
Ms. Bertram, I think you mean that ours is going to be bigger than the one in Radford. And at our last regional,
Bradford, okay.
yeah, and at our last regional commission meeting, I mentioned that while sitting next to the mayor of Radford, of course, saying, you know, it's not about size. Nobody's measuring, except ours is bigger. So
My apologies, I thought it was a different one.
It's,
it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, it's at 10. And actually, with the fire department working together out there, when they had the fire in Washington Square, it helped because they were there and they were able to get there. And I heard that Mr. Clark got to help get stuff ready, but they wouldn't let him work in the fire.
I wasn't going to work. I'm the first one out when there's a fire. But there was an actual real world fire as we were doing search and rescue. And mind you that the firefighters were blindfolded when they were doing their search and rescue inside the building. And it was quite scary. So, but they're awesome men and women. So,
We're lucky to have them.
yeah.
All right. With that, just a reminder of the future council meeting. Our next council meeting will be April 18th, 2023. Closed session at 6 and open session at 7. As I have nothing else on the agenda, I say this meeting is adjourned.